Hello, welcome to the West Tigers podcast. We're up to episode number 65. Eddie Otto, how are you going on the school holidays?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joel. It doesn't feel much different to a couple of weeks ago, even though we're at school. There are not many people out and about at the moment, no matter where you are in the world.
Yeah, it's nice to be out on the roads. If you ever have to go anywhere, it's like, I really don't want it to go back. In some ways, it's quite nice. Traffic's heaps better.
That is something. I went somewhere last Saturday, and that was particularly noticeable. The amount of free space out there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not a lot's been happening in West Tigers land. I just thought I'd just make mention because we don't have a lot of West Tigers in the video at the moment. I've got my 2020 hat there, which is I'm pretty impressed with that. It arrived in the mail just recently, so my members hat, so that's good. And they always do a good hat, I think, West Tigers.
Well, I don't know, Joel. You might want me to get some of the hats on that they've had in the past. I don't know if I've still got them, but I did. That one's not too bad. They used to do some really bright orange ones, which I wasn't a huge fan of. This was back probably 2012, 13, but that one doesn't look too bad.
Well, that you're speaking of that orange from that part of the West Tigers history. We'll talk about the jerseys because I put up on Facebook some comparison images of the different jerseys through time to see which jerseys people like more. So we'll talk about that soon on the podcast. I've also got the flag here. I've dug out the West Tigers flag, which won't be too long before that can go back to the football. And my daily routine, which is the West Tigers glass. So, have you got one of those in?
Yeah. I don't, but maybe next week, Joel, I've got a big glass, and it's actually a Balmain Tigers glass. It's got the Balmain logo on it, so I might drink out of that next week for you.
Nice. Okay, very good. Quade Cooper. I don't know a lot about Quade Cooper other than the fact that he's a 32-year-old rugby union player. You're a bit more in tune with what's been happening in rugby in the last decade or so. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't describe myself as a big rugby fan, but just Quade Cooper rumours have been around for 10 years, Joel, and he is a very, very skillful footballer. Like a lot of his skills with the ball playing, kicking would transfer easily to rugby league. But you said it right there. He's a 32-year-old rugby union player who's played rugby pretty much his whole career. I don't know if he played league maybe at school or something, and that's where the link is. But I think, like you said to me off the air, I think it's the media looking desperately for some content each day. I don't see it happening. I think it'd be a giant risk for someone like that. His defence has always been suspect, Joel, even in rugby. And they only make, 6 or 7 tackles a game, some of those 5/8. So it'd be a gamble. A lot of people would be excited to see him in league because, like I said, he is a freakishly skillful player. But I just think 32, it needed to happen 5 years ago.
Yeah, I remember there being rumours, as you said, of him coming over to league. But I wonder if that's been, historically. But I wonder if that was ever used as leverage to get a better contract out of the ARU. Just for the uninitiated who might not have caught the news, there was some stories around, as Eddie alluded to, Fox Sports has run the story that apparently Michael Maguire has been talking to him and is keen on signing him. But at this point, there's nothing concrete.
No, and the other thing I read deep into the article was he's actually contracted to a Japanese rugby union club from January onwards. So, I mean, that wouldn't make any sense as it is because we've got Benji Marshall and Josh Reynolds this year. And if we're looking for a number 6, it's probably from 2021 onwards. So as a stopgap, it doesn't make any sense. I still think that could be a position, though, Joel, that we need to invest in because even though we've got Adam Dewey, I mean, he hasn't played much in first grade at 5'8", and Benji, we assume, again, might retire, and Josh Reynolds, who knows how much he's got in the tank. So number 6 is still a position I'm sure Madge will be looking at, maybe hence the rumours.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, you mentioned as a stopgap, Benji Marshall, Josh Reynolds, you've got Adam Dewey, as you mentioned. You've also got the opportunity now if Billy Walters is not playing hooker. The Billy Walters could play there as well. So I don't see the logic of it. I think if he was a prop, I still maintain from what I saw early on against the Dragons and the Knights, I think we're still one prop short. But I don't see the point of a 32-year-old 5'8". Seems odd.
Probably. I think still 5'8", they talk about the spine and spines win premierships, and I think you've got to have at least 3 out of the 4 players be really strong players at 1, 6, 7 or 9. So at the moment, I think we've got a really strong 7 and potentially 9 is going to be a good area, but we don't know with Harry Grant and Jacob Liddell. And then, fullback and 5'8", there's still some question mark, even though there's options there. So Also, I think more interesting on the rugby union sort of overseas side of things. Sonny Bill Williams and Israel Folau, they're both playing in the English Super League, which you would think will be suspended for longer than the NRL. It could be the whole season. So there are rumours that NRL clubs would be sniffing around those two players. Joel, would you be interested in a short-term deal for either of them, Israel Folau or a Sonny Bill?
Well, I think Israel just comes with too much baggage at the moment. But I think that Sonny Bill would be absolutely ideal. I would much rather us be talking about us potentially signing Sonny Bill Williams than Quade Cooper. That's for sure.
Okay. I mean, he's got a huge aura about him, Sonny, and he's obviously got a great history in rugby league. So that's two things. But he's a 34-year-old back rower, Joel, that's playing for a Toronto Wolfpack side that hasn't won a game.
Well, I only said I'd rather.
Yeah.
I didn't say it.
Yeah. But the interesting one is, look, whatever you think about Israel Folau, he's clearly the one out of the three that if you were just, three of the same person, you didn't know anything about their backgrounds, he's the one you would be after because he's the guy who's got the most left in the tank. He's a fullback. I wouldn't be surprised at all, Joel, if in the next 6 months an NRL club tries to get him on board. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised as well. But I could see Sonny Bill Williams there in the back row, and he brings some intimidation and he certainly brings some publicity to the West Titans. So yeah, and maybe some of this as well is Fox Sports are desperately scratching around for a story. They know if they put anything about any sort of West Tigers recruitment, they're going to get 150,000 people going and looking at it and talking about it on the West Tigers podcast, which is what we're doing, and mentioning Fox Sports. So it all works, doesn't it, if you want to be really cynical. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we'll sign any of them.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. I think they're really tight mates, Sonny Bill and Quade, and maybe, Australians who are stuck overseas, for want of a better term over there, they might be looking to come back as some sort of package deal. So that'd be interesting to keep an eye on. But yeah, you'd say it's a long shot.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about West Tigers fullbacks as well. I forgot to mention that at the top of the podcast. The different guys that have worn the number 1 jersey over the years. It's an interesting list. We'll get to that in a few moments' time. But if I share the screen here, we'll be able to see the posts that our followers on West Tigers podcast Facebook page made over the last couple of days. We put up the different jerseys and different jersey designs, and you should be able to see the screen there now, Eddie.
There it is. Yeah, I can see it. It's just disappeared again.
Okay.
Right. We've had it up before. There were plenty of jerseys, Joel. Anyway, I wonder did you go through and count them all? It's probably over 50 since we began.
We've had many different jerseys, and especially when you take into account the NRL's requirements that we all have the home and away jerseys, that certainly adds more. And then you've got things like Marvel round and also Anzac round and Women in League round and all sorts of things as well. It's certainly not like the old days where, well, especially with the Balmain Tigers, we had the one jersey for years and years and years. Western Suburbs pretty much the same, although they did have the alternate mainly white jersey, which I always thought looked really good.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know. It's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I think the strongest brands, or definitely the strongest brands, are your Collingwoods, Richmonds, St George, South, the clubs with that, one signature jersey. And I know it's a little bit different because we, the merger 20 years ago, it's sort of home and away. But how often do you see? I mean, at Collingwood, I know, for instance, didn't change their jersey at all. Even when they were crested by the AFL, they refused. And I know in the AFL, Richmond were predominantly the yellow stripe with the black background. And I just think, I'd love to settle on sort of one jersey and have an alternative when you do clash with an opposition. But I just think the strongest brands are the ones with 1 or 2 jerseys that you stick with. And we seem to have, like you said, 5 or 6 a year. I'm not saying they're all bad, but it's just hard to keep up.
Yeah, it is. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, so this was the first post that I put up, and basically that's the 2020 jersey up against the 2000 jersey. Interestingly, it appeared to be more support for the current jersey than the 2000 jersey, but I have to say I still like that one. I think it's not perfect and could do with a little bit of updating because it is 20 odd years old. But and I guess you could make the argument you haven't come too far when you look at the two different designs. But I quite still like that 2000.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're going to throw more at me here, but that 2021 I think is one of the best because I think I like jerseys that are clean and simple
Yep.
and strong, and I think the best for me is the predominantly black with the orange and a little bit of white. And I think with the way that V is shaped in the T20 jersey, I think it's a little bit better than the way it's done in 2000. It looks a bit more cavalier there.
Yeah, I think it's a very professional strip, the black strip.
Yeah, very good.
2020, it's very good, and that's I think you're echoing what a lot of our followers thought about just how popular, how much they like that current jersey. It's a really nice design. These two jerseys, probably two of the ones I least liked myself. Neither of them really do very much for me, and it appeared I wasn't alone. Most of our followers weren't too keen either. What are your opinions on these two?
Yeah, is that top one 2009?
2009, 10, I think it was. Yeah.
Yuck. The white jersey, I'm just not a fan. Unless it's 50 degrees, I just don't think they look good. They're not West Tigers colours. Oh, they are West. The white is a colour, but I just think black is the main colour for me that I'd have, and a bit of orange and white. So I hate the white jerseys, generally all of them. And that one down the bottom, I like the V sort of shape on it, but that type of orange, Joel, they seem to sometimes go for that almost blood red orange. I'm more a fan of the an orange you're going to show in a minute, I think.
Yeah, the lighter colour orange.
Yeah.
This was I was just going to say this jersey here, 2017, sort of around that vintage. I don't think it's dated very well. I didn't particularly dislike it at the time, but I'm not a huge fan of it now looking back, especially compared to the 2020 jersey. But I've got to say, this particular jersey design wasn't very popular amongst our followers, but I think we looked really slick and professional in this. I think it was around 2010, 2011, 12 era.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're saying that because in 2011-12 we're winning more games of football, or whether maybe it's subconsciously, but yeah, I don't mind the sort of sleeves and the gold and the orange and black there, but the white with the grey stripes is yuck for me. I can't get my head around it. And the one down the bottom, yeah, it just looks a bit out of whack with that orange up the top and the white V. Yeah, not a huge fan of either of them.
Okay. These ones here divided opinion quite a bit. Obviously, plenty of great memories around 2005. And you were talking about the orange being all wrong. The orange was all wrong in this era, which was 2013-ish or 2011. Yeah, I think it might have been actually the alternate of that white from memory. But yeah, the orange was never right, but I didn't mind that design. But I still think that 05 jersey is a pretty nice design.
Yeah, I much prefer that orange in 2005, almost more like the gold. And how can you not love that strip? It's hard not to when you just see that image there. That looks like Benji. Not sure if don't know if it was grand final night, but I don't know whether it looked. They did use the white shorts, and that's another thing that we do. Sometimes we come out in black shorts and white shorts, and all a mix. But I reckon, Joel, that combination with in 2005, the orange shirt, predominantly orange shirt with the white shorts, I reckon it was only used 2 or 3 times, and one of them was for the grand final, which it was usually that orange jersey with the black shorts. But I don't know whether there was a colour clash slightly with North Queensland, but that was interesting about that grand final.
It was. And I like that jersey, and I did like the main jersey from 05 as well. I thought that was a nice jersey as well. So yeah, but it goes to show just how many different variations of jersey designs we've had, and there's even more there that we could put in, as you were saying. And I know it sells jersey, and you might get a commercial hit, a short-term commercial hit from having many different designs and bringing out new design every year or two. But I don't know if it does much for your brand overall, because I don't see a whole lot of consistency. I mean, that jersey there, 2020, looks nothing at all like that jersey there. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like you. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I'd rather see us, get one basic design and stick with it.
Yeah, it's probably, it would have to be a monetary decision, Joel. Like you said, if you've got 5 or 6 different jerseys, if you can sell, one for Indigenous round and one for women's round in league, and people can design it for you and stuff, some of them look pretty cool. But just as a sort of traditionalist and stuff, I really like that main strip for 2020 with the predominantly black and the orange V, and I just don't know why we can't stick with that. Like if you go to if you go to Leichhardt on a Sunday afternoon, a lot of people still wear the old sort of Balmain jersey. I don't think that's because they still want to support Balmain. It's just because that was a jersey that was sort of traditional and they sort of stuck with. Whereas, like you said, West Tigers is 4 or 5 different a year and they become outdated very quickly.
Yeah, well, it's very hard to get that emotional attachment to it because it wasn't around long enough to become emotionally attached to.
Yeah. I remember do you remember a particular sponsor, Joel, that can totally wreck your jersey, one with the rainbow sort of colours that we had around 2004?
Herbal World.
Yeah, that was the one. They had that big bullseye in the middle of the jersey that, it didn't matter what jersey design you had, that stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, we went through a bit of a rough period with sponsors. Radisson Main, of course, was there, and Don Smallgoods. I think Don was 2001, I think.
Yeah, sure was. And how about JFTA? I think were they a Campbelltown company? They got luck. Well, they were in charge, the major sponsor in 2005. And I think did Meriton take over in 2006 from memory? I think.
Hire was there. The Chinese.
I mean Proton.
Yeah, Proton. Proton was there for 3 years.
But
JFTA was an interesting one because it wasn't a business that you and I can go out and support, or it wasn't. It was a funny sponsorship because what JFTA do is clean up like old service stations, and it's a real commercial business.
Well, I think we might have been going a bit cheap there, Joel, because I think Herbal World sort of collapsed and the Tigers hadn't had much success, and JFTA probably did us a favour and probably turned out pretty good for them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, shall we? And look, those posts are still open on the West Tigers podcast Facebook page. So go in, and if you haven't liked the podcast on Facebook, go in and like it and have your say. It's certainly good to go back and look at the history, which is what we're going to do now with fullbacks. And as you can probably see there, I've got on the screen a list of the guys that have played fullback for at least a few games. Some of them obviously less than others. Started off with Joel Kane. I think the overarching feeling I have, Eddie, is that we've had a couple of really good fullbacks, and we've had a lot of guys that haven't been there for a long time and haven't made the position their own.
Yeah, well, it was funny. I sort of saw your list, and then I went to make a top 5, and I had obviously a clear 2 out in front.
Yep.
And then I just couldn't find much underneath it. There were lots of guys that we'll probably talk about that were potentially going to be good, but also there are lots of guys on that list that were predominantly wingers or 5/8s or whatever that found themselves in that fullback role. So it's been a bit of a revolving door outside of 2 really, really good fullbacks that we've had.
Yeah. Well, Joel Kane played over 90 games, I think. Remember, he played more games than you think, including a year or 2 with Balmain. He made, we spoke about Joel recently making a good contribution in the early days of the West Tigers. Scored lots of points in that 2000 season. Matt Sears didn't play there too many games at fullback. He played a lot of games at centre because Joel Kane was there. Lee Murphy had a go, and then Brett Hodgson came back from Parramatta, and Brett was, people, I think 95% of our listeners and 95% of West Tigers fans would say that he's been our best fullback so far.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it's funny, he sort of gets, when you hear, I was listening, I think, to the Matty Johns podcast the other day, and he was saying, when people think back about the Tigers of 05, they always talk about Prince and Benji, whereas, Hodgson was very much got more consistent than them throughout the season. I think he was Dally M fullback of the year. He scored over 300 points. I think he got 19 tries. And, they all say that Billy Slater was the first of the ball-playing fullbacks, but I don't know about that. I reckon Brett Hodgson was the ball-playing fullback before Billy Slater was.
He was a huge attacking threat. And so many tries. The ball just came back inside and he was such a threat. And when you have other threats in the lineup like Benji Marshall and Robbie Farah, we were such a potent attacking team. Very good memories of Brett Hodgson skirting away that game against the Cowboys towards the end of the season. I think the first game of the finals, the game against Canterbury, a couple of weeks out from the finals, he just tore it up and was kicking goals from everywhere as well.
Well, it's crucial, isn't it? He had his kicking boots on that year. I think he sort of had a few injuries after '05 and his goal kicking wasn't as good. But even in that grand final, Joel, I remember Fitzhenry scoring in the corner with about 10 minutes to go. And Hodgson from his, the non-preferred side for a right footer nailed one from the sideline to make that gap 12 instead of 10, which was probably the biggest kicks we've had so far in West Tigers history.
One of the guys that certainly divided lots of opinion and created a lot of debate on the West Tigers forum in the day was Shannon Gallant. And he wasn't a bad little player.
Yeah, well, I actually bracketed 3 guys, maybe 4 guys here together. Shannon Gallant, Shannon McDonald, Jake Mullaney, who I don't know if played any first grade, but was a 20-star, and a guy called Curtis Rowe, who you had on your list. All these guys were highly touted in the under-20s and really good under-20s players, Joel, but for want of a better term, they just got ragdolled in first grade. Shannon Gallant was a guy who was tough. I thought he was a courageous little player and probably more of a natural than a couple of the others. But again, like Shannon McDonald, never really found their own in the rough and tumble of first grade. I don't think that was a lack of heart or lack of skill, but Hodjo sort of had that nous to survive, even though he was a 70, 72 kilo guy. The other guys, maybe they were a little bit unlucky that the full-time professional era and guys are a lot bigger across the field. But I don't know what you felt, but I just felt Shannon Gallant and McDonald and Curtis Rowe all fell in that same bracket of just not really being big enough to carry the fullback workload.
Yeah, they're probably just in that era. They might do a little bit better today. If you look at guys like Pappenhausen, who's certainly not big, he's doing well for the Storm. I think you're right. It's not a matter of heart. I think it's just sometimes your deficiencies get found out in first grade, but they get even more magnified at fullback. I think all of them, if you look at the list of not just the fullbacks that played for West Tigers, but if you look at all the players that played for West Tigers, there's so many guys that have come in and they've played 1 to 5 or less than 10 games. Often, as you say, really highly fancied in the lower grades, get to first grade and it just doesn't work out over a period of time. But it is an interesting phenomenon, and we're certainly not the only club. Every club would be like that.
A couple of things. You wonder maybe whether slightly intimidating playing with guys like Benji and Robbie that demanded so much ball, and whether it would have been hard for those guys coming in after a Brett Hodgson who was so experienced and naturally fitted in, probably was able to overcall someone like a Benji or Robbie or demand the ball when they wanted it. Shannon McDonald, there was always that conspiracy theory on the forum, Joel, because Warren McDonald was the recruitment manager and Shannon was his son. And I remember he had one really good game out at Parramatta Stadium one night, but never really found consistency in first grade and was often shunted to the wing where it was probably even harder for him.
Yeah. Tim Maltson's on the list. Tim played probably 50-50 games in the halves and games at fullback. He had a very talented player, obviously very injury prone, but he certainly struggled with the high ball sometimes, Tim Maltson.
Yeah, I bracketed him a little bit similar with Joel Kane, as in the confidence players. When they were front running and playing well, they could be outstanding. And Tim Maltson he had a great combination with Benji Marshall, and back at the back end of 2011, they were flying together. But when it was maybe a wet track against a big forward pack, and he had to run the ball back or stand under that high ball, that's where you sort of found Tim Maltson out a little bit as a fullback. And no one could wish those injuries on him. He had a shocking end to his career the last 5 or 6 years, and that no doubt stopped him from reaching where he could have reached. But I just found him frustrating as a fullback because I thought he had all the talent. It's hard to say that he lacked courage, but I didn't think he was the strongest runner of the ball back. And I think fullback demands someone like for instance, Corey Thompson, who's not the biggest, but will always put his head somewhere where to save a try. Yeah,
absolutely. A guy that I had a lot of time for that I think if he had settled down and stayed at one club, Mitch Brown. I thought Mitch was a little bit under, I thought he was a better player than what people estimated him to be.
I think that's fair. I think Mitch Brown was our fullback when we went within 1 point of making the grand final in 2010. I'm sure don't think he was the fullback the whole year, but he was probably on the wing and out of the side. And then the injury to Molson, and he was very good at fullback, very solid. I think he played most of his career probably on the wing or in the centres for Cronulla and whatnot. But he definitely didn't let us down at fullback. I don't think he had the natural. He was one who I thought, like you said, he sort of played above his weight there for us.
Wade McKinnon in his day was a little bit past it by the time he arrived at West Tigers and didn't stay too long. Of course, James Tedesco is on the list, and there's not much that you can say about Tedesco that hasn't been said. It is always going to be a great shame in West Tigers history that we weren't able to hang on to James Tedesco. I don't know if there's anything really we can add about that, Ed.
No, it's a bit depressing, really. But he's a world-class player. You could say he's the best player in the world now. And I think West Tigers fans could see that, not just that potential, but that performance when he was here. And who was the other guy you mentioned? I think a couple of years I wanted to talk about. Wade McKinnon. Wade McKinnon was... Yeah. He was a good fullback, but he was broken by the time he got to West Tigers. His body had shut down on him. So, yeah, I think that was a bit of a hit and hope move.
Yeah, absolutely, it was. I think, I think that Wade, being an Australian, he got the opportunity to get one last paycheck from the West Tigers after moving from the Warriors. That was always my feeling about it. Yeah, you got Corey Thompson and Moses Mbai, of course, from more recent times. Curtis Rowe played a few games as well, mentioned earlier. And Tui Lola here, there's another player that made an interesting time of his short stint at West Tigers, and again, divided opinion on the West Tigers forum like few others.
Yeah, well, I don't know why he divided opinion, Joel, because he came over here and, put simply, he wasn't in shape to play. That's the first thing you'd expect of a professional rugby league player in the NRL in 2020 is someone who's in shape to play. And, they're the guys you get more disappointed with because he had really good natural talent. But I don't know if we didn't do our homework on him or we thought we could get him in shape. But, Ivan Cleary again. I was never a fan of Tui Lola here because I just thought, wow, I can see why he was in reserve grade at the Warriors because he came over here and, I just didn't think he was fit enough. And I don't know where he's gone now, Joel, whether he went to the Super League or something, but he might go better over there. Yeah,
I saw him in a game recently in the Super League and, it was just typical Lola here. He did a couple of good things and he did a couple of not so good things. And, he does have on his day all the skills and all the ability in the world, but he's certainly inconsistent. And I don't think, as you say, I don't think his seemingly lack of fitness helps him in that way. So, he will not be back. I'm sure that's the case. So we're going to, if we got in the time machine and went 5 years ahead and look back at West Tigers fullbacks, would we be saying Adam Doueihi has been, number 3 or in that top 3 or 4 of West Tigers fullbacks so far?
I'm going to say no. Although he could be 3 or 4 just by being okay. But I think I'm probably being harsh here because fullback, it's such a demanding position now. And the likes of Billy Slater and these guys have just elevated the position. You can't just be a safe, dependable tackler. You have to be a guy who can, run and pass and kick and tackle and do everything and be safe on a high ball. So I'm probably being harsh on some of these guys who did their best there. But, who are we talking about? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, we're talking about Adam Doueihi.
Adam Doueihi, I think his future is not going to be fullback. I just think he's going to grow into a giant. So I don't know. I've spoken to a couple of South fans who've followed him since juniors, and they're adamant that they think he's going to follow a similar path to a John Sutton, where he might start his career in the outside backs, get to 6, and then become a dominant back rower / lock. So I think that might be more his play, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, the game will be back shortly, and I'm looking forward to seeing that first team line up to see if there will be any changes or any alterations. There's been a few good videos from West Tigers in recent times, including an interview with Michael Maguire, who talking about, he's still watching the videos and he's still doing all the work. And I'm sure it'd be killing him, but he's such an intense character. We'd be so looking forward to getting it back. But we've got a few guys that are already injured, so that might help as well. Might hinder some recovery in terms of not getting match fitness and things like that. But it's going to be pretty much a level playing field really for all the clubs, because everybody, barring Jacob Little, really should be available. Maybe not Russell Packer, but we should be able to field a pretty strong team for round 3 in the end of May, early June.
Yeah, all going well. I think it's a definite advantage that, assuming they get back to being able to train as a team, that Harry Grant will be able to spend 2 or 3 weeks on the training paddock with Luke Brooks and Benji, and rather than just being thrown into a game, as he would have been in round 3 possibly a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see us as a disadvantage. We still don't know, Joel, much about this May 28th, this magic date. Everyone assumes it's going to be back, but do you think it's still going to be a wait and see situation? We still don't know how many rounds or who we're playing or where we're playing, and what do you think is going to happen the next few weeks?
Well, it's the 17th of April, so they've got a bit of time up their sleeve. But I think they're going to need to make sure they've got things locked in by early May. So the players and the administrators and everybody else knows what's going on. So I'm sure there's a lot going on at NRL headquarters. It's I guess an interesting scenario, because from what we've heard, is NRL headquarters is skeleton staff. So yeah, I'm sure they're having lots of Zoom meetings and lots of logistics trying to be worked out. But I think it's vital for the game if it can get back no later than that. It has to be then.
Yeah, well, I think probably the NRL were all set to announce things a little bit quicker, but Channel 9 threw a bit of a spanner in the works, having more than just a shot at them. I don't think they're willing to cough up the same broadcast money they signed up for, given the fact that there's going to be no crowds and they feel like it's going to be a diminished product, and the fact they seem to be dirty on the NRL for wasting millions and millions of dollars in the past. So that'll be an interesting thing to follow the next few weeks.
Yeah. Well, we will follow it and we'll talk about it over the next 6 weeks. We're going to come back next week, Eddie. We'll talk wingers next week. West Tigers wingers. It's going to be, I think, a very similar scenario to fullbacks, because there's probably 3 or 4 guys there that we really love and who made amazing contributions, and then a whole lot of guys who we might not remember so well. But I'll go through the list and we'll discuss that.
You might need a full week to go through the list of wingers. There might be 100.
It could be a special extra long episode of the West Tigers podcast.
Yeah.
All
right. Thanks, Joel. Look forward to it.
All right. See you, Eddie. Thank you.
See you, mate. Bye.